Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. Recently, Skylum Software updated Luminar Neo to version 1.5.1. In today's video, I'm going to demo what's new and exciting in the latest version of Luminar Neo. But I really have to say at the top that there really isn't anything new. There's just a few improvements. Specifically, they've improved the portrait background removal tool, the background removal tool, and they added a little wrinkle to the super sharp extension. Now let's start with the portrait backup removal tool. I have this image I took of Courtney and I want to remove the background and put something else there. Now I'm going to go to the edit panel, and I really never demoed how you should do this if you want to replace the background of a portrait. And this is the way I would go about doing it. Before I would remove the background, I would actually get the layer of the new background over here on the left. So right now we just have the image of Courtney. So I'm going to click on the plus sign here. We're going to add a new layer. And I just happen to have a texture right here. So I'm adding that. And you can see the texture is a lot smaller than the image of Courtney. The image of Courtney was taken with a high resolution camera like a D800E. And I don't know what that texture was taken with, but you can see it's a lot smaller. So all we need to do is we need to stretch it to fit. Then we're going to take the opacity and we're going to put it at 100%. So now all we see is the new background basically. But we're going to take the layer that has Courtney on it and we're going to push that up on top. So now we just see Courtney. Now we want to remove the background. To do that, under Layers Properties, go to Masking, and then we go to Portrait Background. Click on that and it's going to think, and then it's done thinking. Then you need to click remove and see how it does. And when it does remove the background, we'll see the new background there. Now it did okay. It actually did pretty good, but there's a little bit like between her fingers right here it didn't catch. And this little part of her hat looks funky. It looks like part of the background is bleeding through on her hat. So I need to fix that. To do that, we're going to go to the refinements brush. I'm going to fix the hat part first. That is the object. That is Courtney, right? So we're going to, or a hat, I guess you would say, and I'll get a smaller brush. And then we're just going to come in here and we're going to, with the object brush, the object refinement brush, we're going to come in here and just paint this little weird part here like that. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the transition and we need to get this little space, the tiny little gap that's between her fingers down there. So we'll get a really small brush and I'm just going to try to carefully brush there. And tell you the truth, that's probably going to be difficult to do because it's such a very small area. Now, when you're done doing this, I think that's all the refinements this needs. Just close this down by clicking on this arrow, this up arrow like here, this up triangle. And there, it did okay. It's still not quite good enough down here between her fingers, but her hat definitely looks better. So they've, from what I understand, they've refined this tool so it works a little better, but it works a lot faster. So if you've had problems with this tool on your computer just going very slowly, hopefully it works a lot quicker now. Now that's the portrait background removal tool. There's also a background removal tool. The background removal tool you could use on portraits too, but that would be something you'd most often use on either inanimate objects or something that isn't a person. And this, believe it or not, is not a person. This is an eagle. So we're going to use the background removal tool to replace the background of this eagle. So again, we'll go to the edit panel and I'm going to do the same procedure I did before. I'm going to put the new layer on here right away before I remove the background. So I'm going to click on plus. I happen to have another texture here. By the way, I got these textures in here. I just clicked on load image and I navigated to where those textures were on my computer and put them here. So we're going to put this one right here. Oops. And again, it's on top. You could see it right here. Get here. So we're selected. We're going to, it's already fits to screen perfectly. So we're going to put the opacity all the way up. Then we're going to go to the image of the eagle, or the layer that has the eagle on it, and we're going to put the eagle above so it's on top. Now, to get to the background removal tools the same way, you go to the masking of Layers Properties, and then here you have the background removal AI. Click on that. This one works a little bit differently. kind of does its thing. This one, I've noticed, sometimes takes a little longer. Now you can see that it's showing us a red overlay. That's the subject. And anything that isn't a red overlay, obviously, is not the subject. Now, click Remove. And theoretically, we should have an eagle on that texture background. And this one doesn't look too bad at all. And you can see with this one, you may have noticed it kind of recolored it a little bit, meaning since the background was very earth tony, it kind of brought those earth tones into the eagle's white feathers a little bit. So it kind of adjusted the lighting automatically. Whereas with the portrait background removal tool, it doesn't do that. So this one tries to match the scenes, the two different scenes, in this case, just a texture background, in the eagle, tries to match them with luminosity levels and color. So just so you know. Now, again, if I did need to refine this, we have the same refinements brush we had before. We could just go to the refinements brush and do the same type of brushing like we did before. So that is the background removal AI tool, to be technical. Now, I mentioned that there's a little wrinkle added to the super sharp extension. Let's go to this image. When I introduced the super sharp extension, I used this exact image. Let's go to the edit panel. And over here under extensions, we have super sharp AI, right? And if we open that up, it looks pretty similar, but what's different now is this drop down. They also now have a universal choice. So with my experimentation that I've done with this, what I found, if you have an image such as this, which is obvious motion blur, this really wasn't me missing focus, although I might have said that maybe in the last video. It actually was, I believe, me using too slow of a shutter speed, and it was just blurry. So use motion blur, and what I tend to do is I'll go to the middle first. So I'll just go middle, right, and let it do its thinking. Now, sometimes this takes a while too, so we'll see how fast it goes. They supposedly refine this tool too, so it works better. But you can see it's kind of taken a long time. On some images, I mean, it goes like that. No, that's okay. Now, obviously, I think medium's too sharp, so we'd go to low, and it would have to go do its thinking again. So let it do its thing. And once it's done, there's really no controls here. There's no sliders, nothing here to enhance it. We do have masking. You could go to masking and mask it in or out from specific areas of the image, but there isn't really anything you could do to refine it. With motion blur, to me, the medium looked too overly sharp, right? Low wasn't sharp enough. We could try high. So now look, high doesn't look as sharp as medium, does it? Definitely not. Kind of weird, isn't it? But anyway, that's your really choices you have. So with my experimentations with this extension is that if you have something that is obviously blurry because of motion, use motion blur. On the other hand, if you have an image you just want to generally sharpen it because it's just not sharp enough, use the other option, universal. Let's go to that. I'm going to go back to the catalog, and we have a new puppy. This is Fredo. So this is Fredo, and I want to go over here, and I should have already done noiseless. See, I got rid of noise, but I want to sharpen it now. So we'll go to Super Sharp AI, and what I found for just general sharpening, go to Universal, and let's try low. And let it do its thing. And this might take a while too. This does tend to go a bit slow on my computer, at least. Maybe it works faster on a PC, specific type of PC with specific types of graphic cards. That's always kind of like the important factor when it comes to some of these things. When you have to render an image, the graphics card makes a big difference. Some maybe very expensive graphic cards won't work as quickly as maybe even a cheaper graphics card, just because the software is kind of tuned to a specific, norm, I guess, and it may favor one type of graphics card over another. You can see this one's taking a long time. But take my word for it. If you have an image that is obviously has some motion blur in it, maybe some severe, focus blur, like you missed focus, then use the other choice, the motion blur choice. If you have an image like this that just needs some general sharpening, use the universal choice. But by all means, bounce between the two of them if one isn't giving you satisfactory results and see if the other one works better. If this ever finishes, I'll go back to the other image and we'll try universal on it and see if it looks any better. There it goes. Okay, so here's a before after. There's before and there's after. There's before, there's after. You can see it just made it a little better. It looks pretty good. That's Fredo. Let's go back to that other image real quick. We'll go to this one. We'll go to edit. Oops. Go to our edits. We have Super Sharp AI here. Let's just try universal. Let it do its thinking and see if that looks any better. There's high. Let's go back to motion blur. Universal. They look pretty identical to me here. Okay, there's medium. Remember medium looked sharper than high did when we used motion blur? So let's see. Of course, it has to do all this thinking again. And I know I'm wasting your time and I apologize, but it's the software, it's not me. Okay, so there's universal. That's, pretty sharp. Let's go to motion blur. It's got to think again. But once it does it once, we could bounce between the two, I think, and it'll be a lot quicker. Hopefully. Maybe. But while it's doing this, I just want to mention that one of my hopes for this extension is that they add some sliders there so that you could refine it a little better than just these push buttons. So there's medium motion blur. To me, that's a little bit, it's like overly sharp right in here a little bit. The beak looks pretty good. The eye looks good. This kind of looks kind of funky here and here. So the colors kind of add, but let's do universal. Universal just isn't as sharp in here. There's motion blur again, sharper in here. Specifically right here is where motion blur seems to look better. So again, I'll stay with what I said. If you have an image that has motion blur in it, use motion blur. Probably going to work best. Even if it's out of focus a little bit, motion blur will probably look better. But if you have an image that just needs some general sharpening, use universal. Generally, I found universal works better. Also, one little thing I'll add real quick. You can see the extensions button is now over here. That used to be that little kind of puzzle piece that was over here on the left. I guess a lot of people couldn't find it or didn't see it. So they've actually put that puzzle piece over here on the right and put the word extensions right next to it. So that's it for this video. That's everything that's new and exciting in the latest version of Luminar Neo. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.